Good afternoon. My name is Tom Johnson. I'm with the NEC. I'm the Desktop and Server Support Division Chief. I'll be presenting this briefing on the enterprise email migration for our customers here on Fort Leonard Wood. This is my agenda for today. I'm talking about current status, which has changed here recently. What's your responsibility as a customer? The tools and the pre-migration steps that we'll be going through. I'll go through each and every one of those and give you an idea of what that is. It's fairly technical, but today we're going to be videotaping this presentation so that if you have any questions, you'll have this for future reference. We'll go through what the normal migration day will look like when we do migrate. We'll go through what it's going to take to migrate a BlackBerry. I'm sure some of you have those. How many of you have a BlackBerry with Fort Leonard Wood? Good. That'll be good information. And then we'll go through what isn't any more training dates, and then we'll have questions and answers at the end. If you hold your questions to the very end, we'll be able to get through this fairly quickly. So we had a migration pause June through August. We had a new date, which was supposed to be in October, 24 October to 5 November. One of the things that we needed to have, we needed two things. We needed a local pod, which is basically a server farm for the hosting of our enterprise email, to be stood up at St. Louis. That's been stood up since September 12th. The other thing that we needed was to have another circuit so that we could take all the email that is going to be going out through our NIPRNet to just a cloud environment and give you enough throughput to be able to do that in an efficient and functional manner so that you don't have a degradation of service and you can do work without experiencing any delays. Our equipment that was supposed to have been here before this week didn't show up. Won't show up till the first quarter of next fiscal year. So between October and December, that equipment should be here. We'll get it set up, and then our migration period now is 5 March to 15 March, which should give us plenty of time to get everything set up and operational. One of the things I wanted to show you real quick, I'm sorry for turning my back to you, but I do have a lot of information to show. Well, I will show it when it comes up. I have several personal folders, .pst files, as you will be able to see here fairly quickly. And which are not resident on this computer. They're resident on the computer upstairs. So whenever I log into my email, it's looking for my PSTs, which I've associated with my mailbox. Okay. This is, we've been migrated since May in the NEC. All of the personnel in the NEC have been migrated since May. We wanted to go through the experience to make it easier for us to transition you as Fort Leonard Wood to go into enterprise email. One of the things that does not change at all is your Microsoft Outlook client. Your desktop will still look like your desktop when you get a new mailbox. You can see that on my email, I mean, it looks exactly the same, except for all my PSTs out here to the side, but I have an inbox, junk mail, outbox, send items, the whole 9 yards. That doesn't change. In fact, the migration will not affect the client that's on your PC right now. There won't be any change. If you have anything in your PST files, they'll stay there wherever they are. That won't change at all. The thing that will change is your mailbox. Now currently, if I did a property on this, you'd see that my email account is different. You'll see it there at the very top. Johnson, Thomas, G, USA, Civ, US. Before it was Thomas.Johnson7 at US.mil. That box is no longer associated with me any longer. That's what will happen during the migration. You'll be assigned a new mailbox. And all the mail that's in your mailbox, if there is anything, will be moved up to the DISA Cloud Enterprise email at St. Louis. So it'll be a brand new mailbox. So your responsibilities are going to be making sure that your PSTs and your email personality, your configuration that you have right now is saved so that when you get this new mailbox, you'll be able to reset that up. That's not something that we know what your personality and how you're configured right now. You may have a certain font associated with your email. Doesn't make any difference to the NEC. You may have as many PST files as I do. That doesn't make any difference either to us. That's your email. We don't want necessarily to touch that. So that's why it's your responsibility to make sure that you keep tabs on everything that you have currently so that when you do migrate, you'll know exactly how it needs to be set up just to look exactly like you want it when you get there, because it'll be a brand new mailbox. In order for us to migrate 9,000 users in a 2-week period, we need to have your mailbox size almost down to 0. The closer to 0, the better. DISA will not allow us to migrate you if you have more than 25 meg or more than 2,500 mailbox items. When I talk about mailbox items, all the items that are in my inbox right now add up to a certain number, 1,636. I don't know if you can see that at the very bottom of the screen, but there are 1,636 items in my mailbox. Of course, I've already been migrated, so that's not an issue for me. But once you get close to migration, you need to make sure that your mail, both your inbox, your sent items, your deleted items, your junk email, any folders that you may have associated with your mailbox, to also include your calendar, your contacts, and any tasks that you have saved, that you save those off so that you can recreate those on your new mailbox, because they will not be there on your new mailbox. You'll have to send them back over. So you have to copy them off to a PST. So how do you create a new PST? You go to New, File, New, and click Outlook Data File. It'll give you 2 options. The first option is the best option. The first option does not have a limit on the storage capacity. You can make that 15 gig on a PST. The one below it, the 97 to 2002 personal folder, is limited to 2 gig only. You cannot go more than 2 gigabytes in that. We recommend the larger one because if you're like me, you need a lot of file space and you don't need to be limited by Microsoft's personal folder size. The location of that folder, if you create a new one, can be anywhere on the local drive. Typically, it starts out in the user name, app data, local, Microsoft Outlook folder. That's the default. That's where if you create one now, that's where it'll automatically start, except It won't be Thomas.Johnson 7, it'll be your name, whatever your KO name is on your computer. But you can create that on the C drive locally. You can move it anywhere. We recommend it being on the local drive rather than on a network drive. One of the things that we've learned is that if you store a PST on the network drive and you migrate and it tries to sync up with that personal folder, it'll take an extremely long period of time because it's trying to authenticate that that is your mailbox, that that is your personal folder, through the web, through the internet, to St. Louis and back, and it will take an extremely long period of time. We recommend that those be on the local drive somewhere. The default is a good place to store it. So I've made some before in other classes. You just need to give it a name. Something that hasn't been used before would be good. And then you can give it a new name, instead of it being personal folder all the time. And then it will always give you the option of a password. Our recommendation as the NEC is that you don't use a password. You can use a password. I mean, we're not going to stop you from using a password. But if that password gets lost, you have pretty much lost the access to that personal folder and all the mail that's in it. Because we don't know what it is. And if you can't find it, then it's going to be lost to you. And there's no way to get that back. So we recommend not using a password. But if you have critical information that needs to be secured, please, use it, but make sure that you save that password somewhere. Click on OK. And now I have a copy of my old mailbox as a personal folder. There's nothing in it, though. Once I have that, then I can start moving. I can move my junk email. Okay, give me a break. I clicked the wrong box. Anyway. So in that copy of old mailbox, you can move your inbox items, your sent items, your deleted items, whatever you want to, into that personal folder. The intent is to make sure that you know how to configure that new mailbox once it's set up for you. We have tools for you to use. I sent out on September 6th an off-board checklist that looks similar to this. If anybody did not get that from me, please see me afterwards and I'll get your name and make sure that you get a copy. This is a hard copy, something that you can print out, you can look at on your display, and you can go through each and every step that is needed to be able to migrate your old mail into a personal folder, or to keep tabs on how your mailbox is configured. It goes along with the videos that are posted in the Fort Leonard Wood Helpful Links folder under Enterprise Email Migration Training. And there's two sets of videos there. The first set is a set of 3 videos called Pre-Migration Video. And what it will do is it will give you an example, or give you a video that goes through the method or the process to get what you have now into personal folder, set up rules so that you can move your inbox items and stuff that comes into your inbox into that personal folder instead of keeping it in your inbox, so that when you do get migrated, you know that the rule will take care of the stuff that's in your mailbox or going into your inbox, and it will send you to that personal folder rather than going to your mailbox, and that will reduce the size of your mailbox. I always have problems. But the Word document goes through each and every step that it takes to get your mailbox set up, things saved off. However, you have if you have any rules already, how to get those saved off, how to document that. If you have any personal folders, where they're located, so that you know where they are once you get your new mailbox. If you have any group memberships or delegated permissions. If you delegate your calendar to somebody else, that won't be there in your new mailbox. You'll need to recreate that in the new mailbox. If you have any rules, they'll need to be exported, and it'll show you how to do that. If you have any SharePoint synchronizations, if you have something that's in your mailbox right now that is tied to a SharePoint instance, you'll want to make sure that you know where that SharePoint instance is and where it's the URL for that, so that you can recreate that once you get your new mailbox. And then it will also tell you how to reduce your mailbox size to 0. When you get your new mailbox, unless we figure out a way to prevent it, every time you get into your inbox or you get into your mailbox on the migrated side, you'll always have to put in your smart card credentials. That is just one of the requirements of enterprise email. Make sure that everything is associated with one user. And that's important when you start to think about your shared calendars, your shared organizational mailboxes, your distribution lists. All those have to be tied to a instance of a CAC card holder. And that is something that your unit POCs have been working with NEC on for the last few months to find out who they are and who should be associated with that particular mailbox instance. And what we do is we mainly tell DISA this is going to be the person to be associated with that distribution list or that organizational mailbox. They'll set up that permission for that owner. And then from there, that owner can delegate down to other users. So that if you have a branch or a team that's working on a particular organizational mailbox for a particular instance, for example, lessons learned from CAC. If you have 10 people that are associated with that mailbox and want to get into that mailbox all the time, then you can delegate, that one person can delegate to the others, and then they can start reading that mailbox all the time. So there won't be any loss of functionality with that. How do I find out how large my folder size, how large my mailbox is? If you go to right-click on mailbox, click on folder size, it'll calculate everything that's in your mailbox. Currently, I have 171 meg of mail. It used to be, before I was Thomas Johnson 7 with my old mailbox, I only had it up to 100 meg. That's one of the advantages of having DISA host and enterprise email, is that everybody gets up to 4 gig. Now, they start archiving after 512 meg, so you still need to keep tabs on how much mail you have in there. But the more you have, I'm sure it'll be a little bit slower every time you boot up. But it'll give you every instance, every folder and subfolder, and the size associated with that, so that you know which folders have the most storage in them. That's the things that's the items, that's the folders you want to try to move off to a PST, reduce the size if you need that at all. The reason I have sync issues 1 and 2 is because I have a laptop and a desktop, and whenever I'm traveling back and forth, sometimes that email just doesn't sync up correctly. That probably isn't going to be anything that you have on your computers. But that will give you the total size and how much you have to move off. I'm showing you how to create a personal folder. And it'll tell you how to manually move email folders and how to move calendars and tasks and additional methods for reducing mailbox size. One of the things that's in the video, and one of the nice things that I've been able to find out about enterprise email when we were going through the migration, is that there's a wonderful tool that Microsoft has provided that allows you to export your mailbox, everything that's in your mailbox, all your folders, your sent, your inbox, your deleted, everything that's in there to a particular personal folder, and makes an exact copy of what's there. So if I have 1,638, probably have more now, but in my inbox, if I export, and I'll go through the steps, if I export that to a personal folder, that personal folder will have all the mail that was in my mailbox. From then, I can start to decrease or start to or set up the rules so that anything that comes in goes to that personal folder. Anything that gets sent, I'd write a rule that if I send anything, it doesn't go to the sent items, it goes into the personal folder, so that it reduces the overall size that's in your mailbox. So, you cancel this, go back again. File, import and export. It's an export to a file. Click Next. It's going to be a personal folder file. Next. It's going to ask me which one I want to export from. I want to export from my mailbox, and I want to include all subfolders. Next. And then it'll ask me to save the exported file as, and I want to copy it to the one that I just did, copy of old mailbox. And say Finish. And it will take a while. 171 meg doesn't move in an instant. But it will show, and I'll show you how what it looks like on the copy of the old mailbox once it's done, that it'll have the same number of items in the inbox and the outbox and the sent items and the deleted items. And it makes it a really good tool to use. I mean, and I'm not a real big fan of Microsoft, don't get me wrong. But this is one of the good tools to use, especially when you're doing this type of migration. Okay. If you have less than 171 meg, it should take a little bit less time than that. Now, there's nothing in the top layer of the copy of the new mailbox. But if I click on the plus sign, it'll have my deleted items, my drafts, my inbox, my junk email, and you can see that exactly the same number, or should be the exact same number. Why is there only 5 here and 17 here? Because there are probably 5 new. They're just 5 new instead of 17 total. There's 17 items. You can see that on here, it's 17 items. There's 5 that haven't been read. So, and that's one of the differences between a mailbox and a copy and a personal folder as far as the size goes, as far as how it computes the number there associated with it. But it has the exact same numbers. If I go to inbox, it has 54 new here. And if I view it without a reading pane, which is, and that's the default. I haven't changed that default on mine, but that's the default for when you move your mail, when you get a new mailbox. The default will be with a reading pane on and to the right. That's changeable by you, and it's probably already changed right now. It's just one of the settings that you want to make sure that you copy off when you go through the process. One of the comments that we've had in previous training sessions is that everybody didn't know who their unit POC is. We put that on the daily blast. There's a spreadsheet out there underneath the enterprise email migration, and it lists all the unit POCs that we are aware of, and it has ties it to a SharePoint link. So you can see for your unit who your unit POC is, and you should be able to email them and tell them after taking this training that I've attended this training because the Chief of Staff really wants to make sure that everybody gets this type of training so that they're prepared for and ready for the migration when it hits. We have not yet established an enterprise email migration hotline because we haven't migrated yet. But within 30 days of when we are actually going to migrate, so in February, we'll have a hotline set up for any questions you may have. It won't be a work order. It'll just be a hotline, so you can just call and ask a question about enterprise email, and they'll give you an answer right away. We haven't got that set up right now, but we will have that number, and we will tell everybody what that number is once we get there. So I've talked about how large is your mailbox, what folders contribute to your mailbox size, how do you make a PST, how do I move mail to a PST folder, and how do I export my mailbox. So let's talk about migration day. Our time period right now is 5 March of 2012 to 15 March of 2012. 5 March is a Monday. Monday is the day that we start to get prepared for. So we won't have anybody migrating on that Monday. What we will do that night at 1800 hours, we'll begin the migration of the people that are scheduled for migration for that next day. And how we've done that, and we're going to get Chief of Staff approval on the scheduling for that, is we're working with the units to see how many we can actually take on for a day, and we will, the Chief of Staff will bless off on it, and that organization will migrate them that night, and then in the morning will be the process of you setting up your new mailbox. And that's where the video for under the helpful links is helpful, because it'll actually go through step by step on the post-migration video. There are 3 videos there as well that will go through step by step what it takes to get your new mailbox set up and to start setting up the preferences that you have for your current mailbox onto the new mailbox. How to establish that you have a PST folder now that has your data or all your PST folders. It'll go through on a step-by-step method and get that taken care of for you, or show you how to do it. Our intent for the migration day is that once we have our set number of the set organizations to be migrated, that next day, I'm going to have almost all my staff on the ground in the buildings and in those areas where those people were migrated. For example, if it's a MISCO complex, we'll have people in every area. Normally we're going to be doing like the engineer school, chem school, MP school different on different days. But in those areas where they have an instance of MP, chem, and engineer, we will be in those areas to make sure that things get taken care of properly. Now we have a priority list sent to us from the unit POCs, and we'll update those as we get into February timeframe. But we'll help out the unit POCs because they're our link to that organization. We'll help them out first. They've given us a priority list, or they'll give us a priority list of those users that need to be migrated first, and we'll help those that need to be migrated first. Could be the commandant, the assistant commandant, those people that need to have their emails taken care of first. And then from there, we will go through each and every area and make sure that everybody gets theirs set up that day. Our intent is that next day you'll have, if you've been migrated that night, the night before, everybody during that day will be migrated, and we will help everybody get migrated, because we don't want to take on another 1,000 or 1,500 users the next day and then have to go back in two separate areas. I just don't have enough staff for that. So our intent is to, once you've migrated that night, the next day, we're going to get you stood up. It won't be just my staff. I'm asking for help from the 106 Signal Brigade and other NECs that are in this area. Riley, Leavenworth, Sill, Knox, for help in providing extra technicians on the ground to be able to help out with this, and they've already gone through that. Currently, as it stands, as of for 5 March through 15 March, Fort Leonard Wood is the very last to go into enterprise email migration. So we should have a lot of expertise in the area that we can draw from, because they'll all have gone through that. Once that mailbox has been migrated, we will close out the old Exchange account, so that it's a giant leap for mankind. You'll have a new mailbox. You'll have everything saved off. You won't need your old Exchange account anymore. Now, not everybody will migrate the same day that you do. We'll keep those Exchange servers operational for a time period, but because we need to keep their accounts going. And we've also got a list of those from the unit POCs that will not be there that day. We do not want to migrate anybody that isn't there that day. That's just not a good way of doing business. So we will make sure that those people are there, and when they come back into the installation, we'll migrate them at that point in time. BlackBerry migration. Currently, the BlackBerries that you have right now are set up to the current mailbox that you have. When you migrate, you'll have a brand new mailbox. And that BlackBerry will need to be told, forget everything that you had before, reconnect with a new mailbox that's out there in the DISA cloud. The process takes not very long, but I want to go through the steps on that. It's a good screen. We have a template. And that's not the right one. Well, excuse me. Well, this will be difficult. Basically, it's a 3-step process. Because you are now being hosted at a facility that's not here in Fort Leonard Wood, we need to let DISA know that that all the BlackBerry owners that we have right now will be migrating. We'll let them know in advance. 48 hours before you actually get migrated, DISA will send those BlackBerry owners an activation code to be used when you set up that new mailbox. And that'll be sent to the Outlook web account, and I'll show you that here in a second. It won't be sent to your local email. It'll be sent to your Outlook web account 48 hours in advance. On the day, once we make sure that you've migrated completely that night, then we will send out a zero eyes. We'll kill the BlackBerry that you have, so that all the information is gone, and that that'll be your signal that once that's done, once that's completed, then it's time for you to react or connect that BlackBerry to and reactivate to the new mailbox. It takes about 10 minutes to 1 hour once we send the kill command to your BlackBerry for it to be actually wiped, to the state that you'll need to be able to set up the new mailbox. But once that's done, then there's a few steps, and we'll be sending this out to all BlackBerry customers when we get close. Basically, what the next steps are is just to make sure that you have a signal. If you don't have a signal, you're not going to be able to connect to anything. Make sure you have a signal and that it's turned on, and you have a nice little connection tower. The instructions will show you how to make sure that your connection is on. Then you go to the options. One of the options, under advanced options, you'll have an instance of enterprise activation. And that's that right now for you for your local mailbox. And this is where you'll put your new email address and your activation password that DISA sent you, and then it'll connect, synchronize, authenticate, and then it'll start to update from that new mailbox. And that's pretty much all the steps that are associated with that. Before I go ahead, I want to make sure that I showed you what the Outlook web access account looks like. There is one right now for almost all 4-letter users. I don't know if you know about this, but the old Outlook web is https://rw5 Romeo Whiskey 5.army.mil. And you need your CAT card, and you need to be able to use your email certificate, not your regular identification DoD certificate. You need to use your DoD email certificate to be able to get into it. But there is one out there, and it ties in, allows you to use Outlook web from home or while traveling. But you have to have a CAT card reader to be able to read your CAT. This is what the new one looks like, and you can see that we haven't set up on the St. Louis pod because that instance is web-stlm.mail.mil/OA. And this is how it looks. I mean, it's a lot more user-friendly than the old Enterprise or Outlook web instance. One of the nice things about that is that if you are gone and you need to make sure that you have an out-of-office set up, this will give you the ability to select the dates and times that you're going to be gone. And then once that date and time period is done, it turns it back on to regular email. So you don't have to go back in and say, okay, I'm back now. That was one of the nice tools. You go once you're able to get in there. Now it hasn't been set up for everybody yet. It will be set up within a couple weeks of when we migrate. But when you are able to get there, you need to go to options. Look at all your options, and that's where you need to be. This is the new email address you need to be using for activating your BlackBerry, for setting up your AKO so it forwards to your new account rather than your old us.army.mil or conus.army.mil account. And you can just cut and paste that out and use it for the activation. One other thing I want to show you before I conclude and get your questions is that once you are migrated and you have your mailbox set up just like it was today on your new mailbox, one of the things that you need to do is actually forward your AKO mail to your new address. So when you log in to AKO, you go to My Account, Mail Preferences, Mail Options, and it will provide you a screen that allows you to select where you want to forward your email address to. Before we were migrated, that was thomas.johnson7 at us.army.mil or conus.army.mil, and now it is this mail.mil account. One thing that we've been told as lessons learned, when you do this, please go ahead and cut and paste from the OWA into that. And then when you click on Submit, it will say, okay, fine, wonderful, your mail options have been saved. Before you go out completely, just go to Home. We've been told we really advise that you go back into that mail options, mail preferences, mail options again to make sure that it actually took. Because we've heard instances where people actually cut and pasted that email address in there, click submit, left, but they never got any email from AKO. And so we're always telling people in all the user training, go back to AKO. Go to the AKO home. Don't get out of AKO yet. Go to AKO home. Go back through the mail options, mail preferences. Make sure that it's there. And if it is, great. If it isn't, go ahead and change it again. I had a bunch of dates, and there's still a bunch of dates on the. Well, there probably aren't a bunch of dates back on the BlackBerry or the Daily Blast site. Well, did they take it off entirely? Oh. So there used to be a lot of training dates on there. This is going to be the last one since we're videotaping this one now. We're going to put this on the Daily Blast site so that other people can see it. And this will be the last time that I go through this training cycle. So consider yourself very lucky. I do. I consider yourself very privileged to be able to be here. I hope you feel the same. because we are videotaping, if you do have a question, I have a microphone for you so that we can capture your voice. Questions?
Is VPN affected by this at all?
None whatsoever.
Okay, that was my question.
Anybody else?
Since we have a new email address, what happens to the mail that goes to the old email address?
Currently, almost all email that you get at Fort Leonard Wood, if it's here locally, it stays here locally. And that will still remain the same because the exchange servers are still going to be forwarding your conus.army.mil account here locally. If it's internal here, it'll be forwarding it to the mail.mil account. But anything from the outside of Fort Leonard Wood actually goes to AKO and then gets forwarded. So that's the reason for going to AKO and telling it what your new forwarding address is.
And the second question is, the majority of my employees are shift workers who work at a different facility each and every night. How are they affected by creating a PST file at facility A and the next 5 days I'm at facility B, C, D, and E when they're trying to migrate? Because you said you want to make sure you migrate when you're at work. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. We'll have a special, it's a special situation. We'll make sure that we handle those shift workers that are actually working at 6 o'clock p.m. when we start to do migration. We'll make sure that we actually do a migration of that instance earlier in the day when they're not there at the office so that we can make sure that they get migrated on the same day and same time frame.
Because you said it's advisable that they put the PST folder on the hard drive, but in these people's case, it would be a lot easier for them to put it on the T drive. Are you advising not to do that?
It will cause problems based on what we know right now. Of course, March is a long ways off, and hopefully a lot of things will get fixed between now and then. But we don't recommend that. But I don't have another answer for you. We'll dig into that when we get to that point, and we'll make sure that we have shift workers and the process for that documented well and tested. With your permission, we'll use your users for a test. Question?
You may have covered it. Email name, is that going to change?
Yes.
Okay, and how is that going to be created?
DISA does that for us. Basically, we just tell them what's on your CAT card, and from that CAT card, that's how it derives the instance. Now, why they got thomas.g.johnson80.civ at mail.mil for me, I don't have any idea why they chose 80. I didn't think there were that many thomas.g.johnsons out there. But that is a side effect of a new mailbox. And it has it's not just Army. Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, other DoD agencies are actually going into the enterprise email as well. So it's a bigger pool than just Army as far as the names go. But it is tied to your EDIPI number on your CAT card. Any other questions?
I have one. I don't think I need the mic. Will the T drive be affected? Like access to the T drive?
Nothing about your network access will be affected by the migration.